Hi, I've received some questions from quite a few of you over the past month, and I apologize in advance for um, not getting back to you in regards to those questions. Some of you asked, how many citrus trees do I have in my suburban backyard food forest? Others have asked, what variety of citrus trees do I have? Now, you probably could go back in my earlier videos from this year, 2020, and you could probably get a, you know, sort of an understanding of what I planted here because I got videos on the specific varieties that I planted. But I can understand how that could be sort of lost in translation, especially when you build a food forest where you're carrying as many citruses as I am. Because typically in a suburban backyard, you're not going to find more than 4, maybe 5 citrus trees, if that, simply because people are more into entertainment rather than growing their own food. Of course, that has changed today. So, what I like to do is share my citruses with you folks, and that I have as of today. Now that's going to change, and I got more citruses that will come into this backyard by way of container, simply because containers allows me to grow more food, or in this case, more trees in a smaller footprint. If you don't have the space, you can grow more trees in containers, and they'll do well, such as dwarfs and semi-dwarfs. They actually do quite well in containers. So let's go ahead and check out my trees, and if you folks have any questions, post below. Other than that, I'll also create a series where I'll explain to you the proper care and maintenance of each tree and how to get your trees to a productive state. Now, a lot of my trees, some of them don't have fruit and some do. And that's because I'm a big fan of taking all fruit and blooms off of my trees in their first year. And I may even take it off in the second year if I see the tree is struggling to establish itself. I do know that every year in the trunk of your tree should at least grow 2 to 3 inches in one season. If your tree is not growing and is only putting on barely an inch, then there's something wrong, and you got to get in there and find out so that your tree roots have the room to spread out and there's nothing stopping them. And usually what stops the roots from establishing quick enough, which normally takes about a year for your trees to establish, minimum, okay? Depending on the cultivar, that could go to 2 years, but in most cases it's a year. But typically what stops your tree from establishing is the fact that you're giving it too much fertilizer, too much high nitrogen, which means that it's going to focus on leaf growth and it's not going to focus on roots. So do yourself a favor, take off your fruit, take off your blooms. Whether you have a bare root tree or one that's already established from the nursery in a container. You can choose to do it your way, but then again, you're the one asking me questions and telling me about the failures with your trees. So why not just get a cup of tea, sit back, listen, and learn something? I did. Why can't you? So the first place we're going to start here is in this 20-gallon container. Now, this tree will be upgraded to a 40-gallon container. And you can see how beautiful this tree is. Now, this is a Valentine pomelo, okay? And there's about 3 different varieties of pomelos, and I'll share those with you, okay? This is a Valentine pomelo, and I absolutely know this tree because I used to grow it on the rooftop terrace. So we're going to go on over and now go to our next tree. Now right here inside of this wooden box, these trees are growing in the ground. If you look closer, you'll see a lot of the mycelium is starting to work. That means it's breaking down all of the bark here. Now this is a Meyer lemon, and Meyer lemons again are finicky, but you got to know what you're doing in order to make sure that whether you're growing in a container or the ground, you take care of your Meyer lemon. I seem to keep the tags. For some reason, I like them because I get a lot of kids and families like to come through my yard, and they get to identify things without asking me a ton of questions on what tree is this when the tag is right there. So here it is here, and we'll work our way back down here, okay? Now, right ahead of it is the Mineola Tangelo. And the Tangelos are very prolific. All Tangelos or Tangelos, depending on how you pronounce it, they grow fast and they become well established. You can see this thing is solid and it's thick and it's got tons of fruit on it, okay? And most people don't understand that when you plant a Tangelo in your yard, if you plant two different varieties, although you don't need it because they're self-pollinating, your yield increases. But one of the things that the trees I found out they do, if you plant them relatively close to each other, okay, and allow their root systems to cross, oh my goodness, the establishment of the root system becomes so, let's say, vigorous that the trees grow tremendously fast. And you're going to find yourself having a spindly tree rather than a thick tree. Be very careful with that and take the fruit off when necessary so that it can focus right here. That's why the best time to really plant citrus trees is in the spring and early summer if necessary, but spring is best. Now we're not going to talk about this tree. This is my apricot, and it's going to do fine next year. We're going to go right over here and talk about this. This is blood orange here. This is a moral blood orange, and I've talked about this on my channel with you folks and so forth, and it's inside this wooden box. So let's go ahead and go to the next aisle over here. Now these are my larger boxes I had in the first year that I moved into this home. This is my Clementine mandarin. And it went through a lot of shock when I moved it from one location to the other. And I got 3 pieces of fruit on it right now because it had to come back from a lot of stress. And it's green, it lost all of its leaves, it's lost everything. Of course, they called me the citrus doctor. I know exactly how to take care of my citrus trees and make sure that they have the best. So we're gonna go here right in front of it, and inside this container here again, this large wooden box, all of these trees up in this area grows in the ground. The soil is here, and they're placed in boxes because it lifts them above the clay soil so they don't have a problem working through the clay soil, okay? And therefore they get better drainage by being lifted off the ground. By the time they grow their roots in the ground, if I choose to keep them here, the clay soil would have softened because of all the nutrients and the water that is already on top of it. But this is my Nagami kumquats. You can see some of them are starting to yellow and so forth. When you're growing kumquats in a container, they grow relatively fast. When you put them in the ground, they don't grow as fast. But after the first year, they then start to put on a lot of vigorous growth because it takes them a year to get established. All citrus trees, it takes them a year to get established. In a container, they get established within 30 to 6 days. And when I say established, I'm not saying that they're going to be perfect from having any problems. I'm saying their root system seem to love containers. They seem to love spaces that are crowded. And that's how you can force your plants to bloom. I'll tell you more about that technique another time. Here's my smaller Owari Satsuma. Remember this one? I've taken a lot of oranges off of here and so forth and left a few just for the purposes, you know, of tasting them this year. But, you know, it's a smaller one, and I do have a large one, and I'll introduce you to that one as well. Now, over here, This is my Sanguinella blood orange. Absolutely gorgeous tree. Look at that trunk and so forth. Beautiful tree, tons of fruit everywhere. It just in clusters and so forth. Beautiful tree. So now that we've discussed these citruses right here, and you can see there's 8 boxes minus 1 with the apricot. There's 6 citruses here. Okay, but we're going to add this one back in. That makes it 8 total. So let's go over to the side of the fence and we're going to talk about these. Now, all of these on the side of the fences are grown in containers, 40-gallon containers. And this one right here, I want you to take a good look at the way this tree grows. It is absolutely gorgeous. Look at these leaves. And of course, you know what type of citrus this is, right? This is an Oro Blanco grapefruit. All right. And I know all about this particular tree as well. And it's got 2 fruit that came out on it. And I'll let it be for now because the tree has grown dramatically. Look at the size of it. Right here, 6-foot tall fence, right there. And if I take those branches and put them straight up, it'll clearly be over. I would put it at about 12 feet tall. Okay? Now, here is a Meyer lemon that I'm recovering. And this is one I totally forgot about. And so it's got some new soil and everything, and it's got some shade cloth around it because we still got this hot, hot heat right there. And so this one, come spring, it should look like his brother. Now, here is my mandarin. This is an Owari Satsuma again. Just like the smaller one here, this is his bigger brother. And you see this? It's in a container. And it's establishing itself. It's got lots of new growth and so forth. Now, next to it is that Meyer lemon I told you folks about that came from, you know, what people will call citrus death. And here it is. And it's starting to produce its own lemons again. Now, remember, citrus trees don't need thinning most of the time by human hands. They'll drop their lemons themselves. They know when to thin themselves. If the branches don't feel if the tree doesn't feel that the branches are big enough and strong enough to hold onto the citruses or lemons, it'll drop. In cases of the Owari Satsuma, you'll find yourself having to actually thin that tree. That's what I've learned over the years. It doesn't drop fruit. It'll put a ton of fruit on these skinny branches and it'll snap those branches in half. So you got to thin those yourself. Now, right here is another container, and this is my Barris lime. Isn't that awesome? Oh, it's starting to go into bloom. There it is. I love when I see blooms. Now, this Barris lime's got a lot of leaf miner, and a lot of people are concerned about leaf miner. And so the goal here is just to keep an eye on it, keep it inspected. If you see something rotten, just take it and toss it off, you know, and so forth. But just keep an eye on it. The tree, you know, leaf miner affects the younger leaves. It doesn't do anything to the older leaves, but it's always the younger leaves. So keep an eye on it. And if it bothers you, go ahead and spray it with some BT or get you some baking soda and vinegar and hit it with just a drop of insecticidal soap. And the baking soda is going to neutralize you know, the leaf miner itself, and the vinegar is going to cleanse it and cause it to be somewhat acidic, where leaf miner does not like it. Now, a lot of you don't know about that technique. In fact, I know you don't, because I developed it. You won't find it anywhere. So I'm going to share that with you at the end of this video on what you can do to treat leaf miner in a organic fashion. And of course, 40-gallon container. Here's my key lime, my Mexican key lime. And you can see it's now developing lemons literally all over it. Okay? And it's got a lot of leaf miner and you know, and so forth. And just let it be. The tree, if you go ahead and treat the tree with insecticides or pesticides, even if it says organic, what you're going to get is the tree is not going to build up its own tolerance to fight this itself. That's why I like to use natural means. Okay? Now, next to it here, another container in the Eureka lemon. And it's got a lot of lemons on it. I've taken a lot of lemons when I first planted it, but those are now starting to replace themselves, even with the smaller lemons and so forth. But other than that, this is it. So, now that we've gone through this, let's count our trees. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And since we have 7 here, plus this one, 8. Typically 8 and 8 would be 16. So minus 1, because there's 8 here and 7 there, you're going to get 15 citrus trees. Yep, you heard it right. So stay tuned for part 2. I'm going to show you how to mix this solution and what's the ratio you need in order to treat your trees naturally and to fight leaf miner at the same time healing your tree. You see, citrus trees get sick too. In fact, everything in your garden can in fact get sick. Even cacti, succulents, and those are hardier than anything in your garden. Truth be told, you got to experiment and know what works for you. Now, we all know that baking soda is a neutralizer, right? You can use baking soda from, on car batteries to getting rid of rust and all sorts of things. Baking soda is a neutralizer. I want you to remember that word, neutralize. Okay? When it comes to vinegar, what is it? It's not just a cleaner, but vinegar itself also can help rid rusty tools of rust. Okay? So it neutralizes it, but it separates what? You got to learn this stuff. It takes a little bit of chemistry, know-how, a little bit of understanding of how molecules and how things work. If I start speaking like that, I'm going to get someone from before that sent me, quite a few people, that sent me a lot of messages saying, you should not speak like that because you're acting snobby as though you got better education than us. And I'm sitting there going, huh? It doesn't make any sense to me. Let me tell you what makes sense. It makes sense to me to give you the proper information. And if you don't want to take it further like I have, then don't complain about your trees. It's quite simple. And don't come to my channel and hate me, yet steal my information. That's theft. You understand? The Most High sees everything. I'm trying to give you information so that you folks could save your trees. And you can better treat your trees. It's easy to have a lemon tree, but is your lemon tree healthy? In other words, if I take a lemon from this tree and you take a lemon from your tree and we both got the same cultivar or variety, in this case, a Eureka, do you not know that if I cut open your lemon and cut open my lemon, send it to a lab, they won't contain the exact percentage of nutrients? That's because people don't understand what nutrient dense is. The FDA over 20 years ago finally told us you no longer can you eat one banana and get the amount of nutrition that you normally would have gotten. You have to now eat 10 bananas in place of the one banana. So food don't taste the same. Fruits from trees don't taste the same because much of the nutrition has been eliminated. In other words, is no longer nutrient dense. I'm trying to teach you not only to grow lemons, but to actually grow a healthy lemon tree so that lemon tree can be around for 25, 40 years rather than at the 5th or 6th year, it starts having problems and no longer it wants to stand up straight. It's simply going to die. Be very careful. My channel is here to give you information, not to take information. If I wanted your information, I'd be on your channels commenting and asking you how to. I don't need to ask how to. And that's not being arrogant. That's being confident in the very thing that the Father has blessed me with. In fact, I go to school every day. And that's my teacher. And this is my classroom, the garden. Baking soda, vinegar, You understand, right? Take you a drop of insecticidal soap because that's going to help it stick. Put it in a bottle, spray your tree down. Not only will you kill leaf miner, because leaf miner, they say you can't get rid of it. Well, you can't. You really can't. But when I say kill leaf miner, I'm saying you want to stop it, slow it down, or just let it go elsewhere if it's really bothering your tree that much. After all, let your trees learn how to grow and build a defense. They've been here before we have. We need to learn from them and learn how to build a defense against that which is bad for us. I think you get my message. Let those who have an ear hear.